We talk about all the time how being social is not hard. A lot of people have a very hard time with this idea. And that's why in today's video, we're going to explain why being social isn't really hard. Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to our channel where we post multiple times per week to help you become more confident and develop better social skills. If you click the subscribe button right now, we will notify you every time we post a new video. So make sure to click that subscribe button so you never miss out. So let's get straight into today's topic. Being social isn't really hard. It's just no one ever explained it to you very well. There's a couple different things that go into this. The first thing is like getting started. A lot of people think they need to be super charismatic or have this huge personality, or be super good looking in order to start talking to someone. That's simply not true. Now, there are people who can start conversations out of thin air and be very, very charismatic. That's great. More power to them. But most people need some sort of common ground or some sort of reason to interact with somebody before they can start interacting with them. This could be as simple as needing to ask them for directions, needing to ask them to pass you something, needing to ask them for their opinion on a certain subject. You do not have to be Mr. Fantastic over here and be able to come up with topics out of nowhere. Most people actually need some sort of catalyst in order to get the conversation going, and once the conversation starts, it usually flows pretty naturally. The next thing is the idea that you need to be interesting. A lot of people think that they have to be interesting and have all these interesting stories or interesting things to say in order to keep the conversation going and be social. That's also simply not true. In order for a conversation to happen, both people need to put something into it. You don't need to be interesting. The other person does too. In fact, most people want to talk about themselves. They want to talk about their own lives. They love to tell stories about their own lives. So if you ask open-ended questions about something that the other person is knowledgeable about, which should be their life, then they'll do 90% of the work for you in keeping the conversation going. All you have to do is ask open-ended questions and listen. The next thing that we've talked about on numerous occasions is the idea that you have to be positive all the time when you're around people. That's also simply not true. It's okay to be negative sometimes. Now, I don't want you to be negative all the time, because people don't want to be around negative people. But being human means that you're going to have negative thoughts from time to time, and it's okay to share those negative thoughts with other people. Of course, don't be a Debbie Downer about it. Don't be negative all the time. But being a little bit negative every once in a while is okay. People expect humans to be a little bit negative sometimes. If you're always positive, people might think something's wrong with you. They might think you're putting on an act. They might think you're kind of fake. So being a little bit negative every once in a while makes you more relatable. Next up is the idea that you have to know what to say at all times. Like you have to be prepared with a witty comeback or with something to add to the conversation at all times. That's simply not true. You don't always have to have something to say. It's okay to be quiet sometimes. As long as you're comfortable being quiet, and as long as the other person isn't giving you weird vibes about being quiet, it's totally fine to sit in silence with someone else. In fact, sitting in silence with someone else can be very powerful. Sometimes it can bring you guys closer together. Sometimes it can lead to some interesting conversations. So it's okay to not always know what to say. It's okay to be quiet sometimes. The next thing is the idea that you have to be super confident all the time. Again, being confident is great. Most people don't have a problem being confident. But being super confident, like being overly confident all the time, is kind of rare. Most people are more comfortable with being a little bit introverted, a little bit shy, but still being able to have a conversation. So it's okay to not be super confident all the time. It's okay to be a little bit nervous around new people, just as long as you're not nervous enough to where you can't function. As long as you can still have a somewhat normal conversation, it's okay to be a little bit nervous. Most people are going to understand that. Most people are going to be able to relate to that, because most people get a little bit nervous around new people. The next thing is the idea that you have to agree with everybody all the time. That's also simply not true. It's okay to disagree with people every once in a while. In fact, disagreeing with people every once in a while can be a good thing, because it can bring up new ideas. It can bring up things that neither you nor the other person thought of before. So it's okay to not agree with people all the time. It's okay to have your own opinions. In fact, it's encouraged. People want to hear your opinion. Even if they don't agree with it, even if they challenge it, it's okay to have your own opinion, and it's okay to state it. The next thing is the idea that you have to be charismatic. We already touched on this a little bit earlier, but it's important to mention on its own. Charismatic people are amazing. They're great at starting conversations. They're great at keeping conversations going. But most people aren't naturally super charismatic. And that's okay. Not everybody needs to be charismatic. Not everybody needs to have that huge personality. Most people can be a little bit introverted and still have a great conversation with someone. It doesn't take much to have a conversation with another human being. It just takes a little bit of effort. And yes, it may take a little bit more effort for some people than others, but for the most part, any human being can talk to another human being. You don't need to be super charismatic. And finally, the last thing that we've touched on several times in this video is the idea that you have to be good-looking. That's also simply not true. Now, good-looking people definitely have an advantage in life. They're gonna have more opportunities presented to them. But that doesn't mean that if you're not good-looking, that you won't have opportunities. Good-looking people have an easier time getting social, but that doesn't mean that people who aren't good-looking can't be social. They can. It just might take a little bit more effort. It just might take a little bit more work. And yes, some people may treat you differently, but that doesn't mean that you can't be social. It just means that maybe you have to work a little bit harder at it. Being social isn't hard. It just no one explained it to you very well. You don't need to be super charismatic. You don't need to be super confident. You don't need to be good-looking. You don't need to be interesting. You don't need to know what to say all the time. You don't need to agree with everybody all the time. You don't need to be positive all the time. You don't need to be anybody but yourself. Being social is as easy as approaching someone and starting a conversation with them. That's it. The rest will come with practice. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you didn't enjoy this video, please hit the like button and leave us a comment down below telling us why. Subscribe to our channel, and, as always, thanks for watching.